Equanimity is a quality that we often think of as centeredness, balance. And it's also the last quality, human characteristic in the Buddhist view just before enlightenment. It's the 10th of the perfections, which are listed in order. It's the 7th of the 7 factors of enlightenment, which are listed in order. And it's the 4th of the 4 qualities of the heart. So it's a very, very powerful idea, concept, characteristic for all of us to pay attention to. I particularly like the description of it in those 4 views of the heart qualities that I've sent out several times and have read aloud, in which it describes equanimity as love that allows. Thinking of love, of how we're connected, how we relate to all of the rest of life, whether it's the humans who are most proximate to us, or all of the stars and planets that are billions of light years away. It's this quality of how we relate. And it's a quality that calls for us to allow. Let's take a moment and each of us think a little bit about this word allow and notice what comes up. Notice what comes up, what thoughts, emotions, even sensations come up when you reflect on the word allow. Perhaps you might be noticing a subtle shift away from your small self towards something greater. Or a shift away from our frequent behaviors of analyzing, fixing, and controlling. A shift in the direction of wholeness. A shift in the direction of being able to cope with and embrace the 3 Ps and the 4 Cs. I really have come to appreciate the power of this word. It's such a simple word and we hear it all the time. These ideas that I've just been sharing and you've been reflecting on give it so much greater reality, such a much greater dimension. The text that I've read many times also says that it's an antidote for partiality, for prejudice, for bias. It's an antidote for being overly contained in our small selves, an antidote for being overly contained in the homogeneous small groups that we most often tend to be part of. Getting past that partiality, getting past having our thinking, our actions, our spoken words, our behaviors be grounded totally in our small selves, in our small groups, and bring a degree of awareness to how that's happening, and perhaps stretch ourselves beyond those boundaries. The near enemy of equanimity is indifference. We may think if we're indifferent to something that we're actually equanimous, because it masquerades as equanimity, but it's not. Or complacency, or denial, or cynicism. These are all near enemies. When we focus on allowing, we're being very aware of how much of our lives are in reality beyond our control. There's not very much that happens outside of us that's really meaningfully within our control. We are our last best hope in that sense. We can choose how we're going to show up. We can choose our thought patterns, our spoken words, our actions, our behaviors, when we have enough space, when we're not caught up in instinct, in habit, in reactivity. The alternative to reactivity is a sense of openness, curiosity, flexibility of mind, one of Kay's favorite phrases from Pema Chodron, flexibility of mind, expansiveness. We have enough expansiveness in our being, in how we show up, to fully embrace not only all of the beauty of life, but all the tragedy of life. Those two live side by side, as we talked about last week, with joy and sadness. When we are allowing, we're not caught up in resistance, in denial, in wishing things other than they are. We're in fact saying yes to life. There's somebody here today who took me on an adventure in November of 1991 that included a visit to the Yes bookstore in Georgetown, near Washington. And I thought it was a pretty cool bookstore, and I thought, well, Yes is kind of a nice name for a bookstore. I was clueless at the time. I had no idea that Yes, those three tiny, tiny letters, that short word, was suggesting this territory of allowing, saying yes to the 10,000 joys and the 10,000 sorrows of life. Thank you. The results of equanimity practice are that we move from reactivity to skillful response. We have that space. We're no longer controlled by our emotions. We're fully engaged with our emotions and not controlled by them. We're not caught up in grasping, aversion, and ignorance. I think this is an especially important time of the year to be practicing equanimity. This is a time of year, if you're like me at all, when emotions run high. I'm filled with memories of my childhood that are very powerful. Some of them are fabulous memories and some of them are difficult memories, but they're powerful. This is a time when we interact with our families. And if you're like me, there's hardly anything in the world that will trigger you faster than being with family members. The relationships are so intense. They're so long-standing. They have so many dimensions to them. So many things have been said that can't be unsaid. And it's also a time when we can easily fall into the trap of observing others engaging in what we think of as unseasonal and inappropriate behavior and become very judgmental of them. So it's especially useful at this time of year to cultivate and practice equanimity. And that's what we'll do now. Taking a couple of deep breaths, letting go of all of that extra energy and tension that's been building up as we've been in this cognitive space and I've been rolling out all these words. Letting go. Allowing ourselves to be here in this space, in this moment. Softening. Noticing how it feels to soften all over. Finding a place of ease and comfort. And directing our attention toward our breathing, toward this most essential of life's characteristics, of our body's behaviors, breathing. Feeling the air come in and go out. Especially noticing where in the body we feel the breathing. And fully embodying the experience. And on the in-breath, feeling a sense of expansiveness, of allowing ourselves to expand into even greater presence. Expand into even deeper connection to whatever's around us. Feeling as if we're just a little bit more than our small bodies. We're expanding into more. Being curious about this experience of expanding, of allowing. Perhaps noting some flexibility of mind. And now shifting into a little different experience. Recalling a recent time when you were triggered. When something happened outside you that threw you into full instinct and habit mode. Nothing too big or too powerful, but we all have those experiences again and again. Recalling the specifics, putting yourself back in that moment. Recognizing that that moment has happened. And since it's already happened, we can be allowing of this experience, even accepting. Accepting of whatever thoughts are arising about that experience. whatever emotions are arising. Whatever physical sensations are present. Noticing what it's like to be in allowing mode. Having a little sense of space and expansiveness. Perhaps enough space to be curious about what's underneath this reactivity. What emotion? What fear? And now inquiring of yourself, what do you need right now? What is this fear or emotion? What is it asking for? Giving yourself a little nurturing, a little self-care. Allowing, curiosity, nurturing. This is equanimity. Resting with this experience as a way of familiarizing yourself with equanimity.